Empire.
Wow, that was as thorough a win as I've seen Washington have in a long, long time. Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Conn Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up now about the Commanders' 42 to 14 win over the Arizona Cardinals, kind of focusing a lot on Jayden Daniels, but I'm going to focus on so much more here. And before I get into talking about this game, just a couple things to remind you of. I will be doing a live stream Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern time with the voice of the Commanders, Bram Weinstein. Tune in, bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your joy and jubilation, folks, because that's something you probably haven't felt in a long, long time. It's early. We all know that. A long way to go. But man, is this for you fans, like this 3-1 feeling has to feel really good. It's the first time with the 3-1 since 2011. Huge difference. Number 5 at quarterback. This is something that's really building. But I'm going to take you to the locker room first. So we're inside just to kind of give you some behind the scenes stuff and to get into it. This was as good a team win as they've had in a long, long time. It wasn't just Jayden Daniels bailing them out. It was a defense that was stout. It was special teams. Austin Seibert continues to be a factor for them. And, so it's as complimentary a win as you can have. And I'll get more into that in a minute. But, it's funny because we're standing outside. When we go down the tunnel, the locker room is right next to the interview room. So you can hear a lot. And if you remember, and JP Finley brought this up, there was one time, I can't remember the year, where you could hear Jay Gruden really getting on his players after the game. Because again, you're right next to it. Well, this time all you heard were 2 loud roars. I mean, loud roars. And it turns out when you watch the Commanders' Twitter feed or social media feed, the reason is because it was Dan Quinn giving Cliff Kingsbury the game ball. And it was, filled with a few mother effing bleeps and whatnots. But that's what happens in that side of the locker room. But the roars were loud. And watching the players come off the field, the way they were being greeted by a couple of the minority owners, Mitch Rales, Mark Ein, it was just something that's been a little bit different, folks. And there's a lot of excitement building, a ton of confidence being built, and it's well-deserved. But again, this was as good a team win as you're going to see this team have, that I've seen this team have in a long, long time. I'd have to go back and dig through the record books or the media guys just to see when was the last time there was as thorough a win coming off a week where they already just had a big win. I think that's what's impressive. You guys know, what has been a topic here and for decades. They can't build on prosperity. Well, they did that this week, and they did it in a place by, they were out in the desert all week, and you're away from your family. And for Jayden Daniels, he's back at his old, stomping grounds in Tempe at Arizona State. Kingsbury is coming home, and there could have been all sorts of distractions or things that could have maybe deflected or just maybe sidetracked them a little bit, and nothing did. And so let's get into it. Let's start with the defense because they've been bad. They were bad the first 3 games. Today they were outstanding. And it's funny because they start off terribly, right? Easy first drive for the Cardinals. After that, they just took care of Arizona's offense. 296 total yards for Arizona. 4 for 11 on third down. Kyler Murray, only 142 yards passing, only 3 yards rushing. And not only that, but they did a really good job. The secondary did an excellent job in coverage because there were a couple times where Murray got outside the pocket and didn't really have anywhere to go with the ball. Certainly didn't hurt them doing that. And then there was one time on a 4th and 1, tries to get out, had to hold the ball just a little bit because the coverage is there, and Dorrance Armstrong comes around and makes a sack. So huge plays like that. The defense had 4 sacks. John Allen got a sack. Deron Payne had a half a sack. So they were much more active and also able to contain him more in the pocket and keep that pocket tightened. But give the credit to the secondary because, again, they've been maligned. Marvin Harrison had 5 catches for 45 yards and touchdown. He did almost nothing after the first quarter, after that first drive. I mean, he was very, very quiet, and he's a very talented receiver, as we have seen in the first last couple of weeks, but not tonight. And you give credit to Benjamin St. Juste was on him a lot in the touchdown. It was Noah Igbenogany was on him. Otherwise, St. Juice was on him a lot and did a good job of defending him. And there was, very little that Harrison got on him, very little. Again, went over the special teams. Austin Seibert continues to be a terrific pickup. Look at some of the guys they picked up late in training camp. It was Seibert and it was Noah Brown, and both those guys are helping out a big amount. And Noah Brown I think he only had 3 catches, but he continues to be a factor for them when they need him to. In fact, there was another play where he didn't catch the ball, but he made a big play, and I'll get into that in a minute. Offense, time of possession, 33 minutes, 449 yards of total offense, 29 first downs. They controlled the ball, and just as importantly, they scored touchdowns. Folks, they went 16 drives with scoring a point. Like it's just amazing. And before Tressway had to punt again, and I mean, I'm kind of speechless on that because I think we all thought like this could be a good offense at some point, but at some point could have been later in the year. Who knew when? Like who knew? You knew Jayden Daniels was going to be good, but how good and when? And it's certainly happening sooner than I anticipated. I think sooner than a lot of people anticipated, but there are a lot of reasons for that I'm going to get into now. Big plays all over the place. Again, the stop on Arizona on 4th and 1. The defense forces a 3 and out after Jayden Daniels throws his first pick of the year. The defense gives up a touchdown on the first drive. Washington answers with its own touchdown drive. That's how you play complementary football. Pick the other side up. Hard to do that every game, but it's what good teams do and have to do in order to win games in this league. And it builds confidence. Like you could see that defense after they got that 3 and out, it just built, and they're playing fast. They were playing faster and physical today. They've been playing physical. So I think you saw that in the Bengals game too, some big hits. They just weren't stopping them. Well, today they were doing both. And I think that's something that you can build on. Jeremy Chin, I thought, was very active. I think you could feel, as Dan Quinn said, you could feel the energy of the defensive line and the pass rush, which you haven't felt. Well, actually, again, we felt it. You could feel it in the first game against Tampa Bay. They just didn't close it. Well, today they were closing it. Today the coverage was better. The communication after that game is improved. And I think today you saw the fruits of that labor today. So again, long way to go with this. And for the defense, they have a chance to build on something. They're playing a Cleveland team next week whose offense has not been very good at all. So they have a chance to really build on something and maybe start to get some momentum. And one thing that Dan Quinn said, and this is something that tried to relate to this, and this is why, I know some people just wanted the defense to be destroyed for their performance over the first couple of games, but you had to remember it was almost half those starters in the defense are new, and it's a new system, et cetera. Not to give excuses because some guys just weren't playing well. We know that. And there were issues that we saw going into the season at corner, perhaps, that was that going to be a big issue during the season? But one thing Dan Quinn said is that, he would tell the defensive coaches, you're closer than you think. And today, I think you saw that. Now, one game doesn't erase everything because you have to build on that. You have to become consistency is what wins in the NFL, not the occasional blip. But if they can build on this and get to some momentum and just be solid enough, right? They don't have to be a dominant defense. They just have to be a solid, play much better than they did in the first 3 weeks. Because if they do that, the way this offense is going, it could be a very fun season for this team for the first time in a long time. And I think that's a credit to, there's a mindset I think that is developing here. And I think one of the things that Dan Quinn does very well is he's very optimistic. That's good. But I think it's also just establishing a belief in what you're doing. And I think that's one thing these players seem to have. And today you saw it. Now, again, you have to build on it because if you don't, then it was just a 1-game blip, and a 1-game blip isn't going to get you anywhere. And the NFL, things can change week to week so fast. But they did have a game that you can start to build on. Offensively, you have to look at the schemes by Kingsbury. And I think that's one of the things that you've seen. It's just different, folks. And when we've seen what we've seen over the last however many years, it's kind of fun to watch an offense that can actually move the ball and do so through through creative ways and with a quarterback who can make a lot of plays, and the concepts can be very good. In fact, if you remember the Luke McCaffrey catch, and he was talking about just how Kingsbury knew how the Cardinals were going to play this bunch formation, the way the defenders were going to do it, and he adjusted the route accordingly. And he said it was just a really good concept that took him over the middle and gave him an advantage on the corner who was supposed to be covering him. And it was up to Daniels just to find him, and he did.
Hey, it's Bram Weinstein here, voice of the Commanders, and of course, frequent guest of this podcast, The John Keim Report. I wanted to let you all know that my show, which airs at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on ESPN 630, is now exclusively produced by Empire Media, my company, and it's going to be distributed through our network. So I'm asking you, please, if you subscribe to this show and love this show, give mine a try as well. Subscribe to the Bram Weinstein Show wherever you get your podcasts, and many of the shows and many of the elements that are in the show will be available on the Empire Media YouTube channel. We're going to talk a ton of Commanders and other DC sports. Check it out.
There was another time I brought up the Noah Brown play, but there's another time, I think it was on a 14-yard pass to Olamide Zaccheaus, where Noah Brown just going straight forward, but the corners then collide. There was he and Brown and Zaccheaus were on the same side in the stack formation. Well, Brown basically takes out two guys. He didn't touch him. He just by his release, they ran into each other, leaves Zaccheaus open, gets 14 yards. There was another time on the 27-yard of Zaccheaus. And one of the things I really liked today one thing in the first couple of games, watching Robinson and Eckler be paired together. So you wondered, how were they going to duplicate that, right? Well, today they did it with a couple different ways. Sometimes they put McNichols in the backfield, Robinson. On this play, they use Olamide Zaccheaus. So, and it was on a 3rd and 5, the 27-yard play, was Zaccheaus is on the left of Daniels in shotgun formation, just flares out to the right as the fake handoff goes to Robinson running the other way. That draws the attention that way. Then the eyes go from Robinson to Daniels. Nobody's looking at Zaccheaus. Easy money, folks. Just dumps it to him. And the one thing that Daniels did well here too is just keep your eyes down the field. Don't draw the attention to him right away. Let guys get over there. And then he dumped it to him, and he had 27 yards free. There was also a 2nd down and 1 run inside the 10. Another time where you had this time was Robinson and McNichols in the backfield together. So if you remember this one, it's a zone read fake to Robinson. Well, the defensive end is, what's he going to do? He's going to sit there and he's going to be square to the line of scrimmage to try to defend Daniels. But the wrinkle here was, here comes McNichols coming across the face of Daniels and just blocking the defensive end, and that frees up the outside for Daniels to get 6 yards. Now he didn't score on the play, but he got 6 yards inside the 10, which is, so it's a good run. And the next play they had a touchdown. There was also a diverse run game, and you watched Brian Robinson with 101 yards. And the other thing too is there is a diverse group of characters who are contributing. And I just brought up McNichols. He had 68 yards rushing. How are they going to survive the loss of Eckler? Now, is Eckler a Pro Bowler this way? I don't know, but he's been a good player for them, certainly. Well, he replaced him with 68 yards, and they did a good job blocking for him. And I just mentioned one other play where he does a nice job. You had Robinson with 101 yards. You had Zaccheaus last week against the Bengals, 5 snaps on offense. But what did Dan Quinn talk about after the game? How Zaccheaus was happy for the guys who were making plays on the field. So what does he do today? He gets 5 catches for 85 yards, or 6 catches for 85 yards. That's how you build confidence in your players. And one week you could be the guy, so you stay sharp because you don't know when it's going to be your week. And today it was Zaccheaus and McNichols. I mean, think about that. At the beginning of the season, you have a game where Zaccheaus and McNichols are 2 of your primary players making plays. And I think, would you have predicted that? No, I don't think so. But Zaccheaus was pretty good, but McNichols, doing what he did, hard to see. Now, he had a good summer, but this is where their season is going right now. And I think some of it is a tribute to Kingsbury getting guys open. And I think it's also, there's a threat of Daniels as well. keeping your eyes on him, having to keep your eyes on him, having to be aware where he is can then open things up for other people. So the combination is really working right now, which is why Zach Ertz said after the game that it's like Daniels and Kingsbury have been together for 4, 5, 10 years because they're very much in sync. And I think Daniels feels that well. And I told you the other day how much people around Daniels and people that he talks to, whether it's LSU or back home, will say the same thing, that he loves the support system he has in Washington. And a big part of that is Kingsbury. And it's why you go back to some of the pre-draft nonsense talk and how obscene it was, how off some of it was, because we're seeing that it was it was just blatantly bad in some cases. But again, Kingsbury's schemes have been very good. Then I'm going to get to Daniels in a minute because he was terrific, but I got to go to the O-line before then too, because they were really good. No sacks, more than 200 yards rushing. As Quinn said, it's a big guy's dream. It's big guy's ball, big guy's dream to have a game like that. And they were, of course, a lot of questions, maligned or whatever. But one thing, and I told you this during the summer, that they were not as concerned about the offensive line as people in the outside world, because the outside world saw was, oh my God, 65 sacks. They changed the line. They like what they had. But thing, and I would say this, others would say Logan Paulson, I'd have him on there, and he would say it, scheme matters, folks. Scheme, play calling, quarterback, it all matters. That all helps the offensive line. You can do things to help the offensive line. Like you can look at the talent on paper, say, oh no. But they're going to look at it differently. And what can this guy do? What can this guy do? How can you maximize this with this scheme? And when you have a diverse scheme, then it matters. So you can fool things. They're fooling teams with their eyes a little bit. A lot of motion and movement in the run game. Just action to take your eyes away. It's all working. Then you look at like Andrew Wiley had a tough year last year. He shouldn't be pass protecting 70% of the time. Well, what did he do today? A couple of nice blocks in the run game. In fact, on the Jayden Daniels touchdown run, it was Biotish and Wiley leading him around the end. 2 good blocks. Wiley does a nice job blocking in space, and that helps too. So they're taking advantage of what the O-line can do. And then when it's in the pocket, you see like sometimes there is trouble, but sometimes Daniels is getting rid of the ball, or he's able to make plays and create plays with his legs time and time again. So I think that's a credit to the O-line, but the O-line has done a nice job. And even on the there was the 4th down and 1. I think it was a 4th down and 1 where they have the unbalanced line. Trent Scott's in the game. Nice little playoff tackle, but Scott does a good job of sealing his guy to the inside with a little help from John Bates. Bates with a good block around the end. Actually, it was one of the long runs. And so like they're getting contributions from all over, and that's what you need to win. Now, let's go to Jayden Daniels, because this is the reason why this team is, shouldn't say that. He's a big reason why this team is playing with so much confidence, hope, because when you have that hope and confidence in the quarterback, it just buoys everybody, and it makes the defense feel like, hey, if you stop him here, this kid can take them down and score. And that's what keeps happening. I mean, folks, 2 times in the last 3 games have they had a drive that has not ended in points. And they had the interception, you had the punt today. Let's get to those for a minute, because I think everything that we see with Daniels is revealing some part of him, right, to us. And I think it's not listen, I talked to a high-ranking official after the game in the locker room, was like, as kind of joked, like, well, you got the right guy. Kind of been obvious for a while, but just kind of asked, is there any surprise here? It's like, no, this is what you thought. And I would say that too. Like when I go on the radio, people ask me, are you surprised by this? No, because this is what we saw in training camp. This is what we saw when he got here in the spring. Now you can listen, he became the first quarterback in NFL history to complete 85% of his passes at least 85% of his passes in consecutive games. After 4 games, like he's got the NFL completion percentage record, right? It's like, I think it's 82.6, I think it is. Regardless, he's got the record. So am I surprised by that? Well, yeah, because that's historic. But is surprised by his success? No, because it's who he is and it's how he prepares. And that's one of the things too, one thing that Quinn was talking about, Daniels is back here in his old stomping grounds at Arizona State during the week. He's in the bubble where he used to practice. It was weird for him to be there. There was, and he even said there was some bittersweet aspect to it, because, he did really well here for 3 years. He was here. This is a big part of his life. and then he transferred, so clearly there's some people here who weren't happy about him transferring, but he had a lot of good moments here. But it could lead to some distractions. And Quinn said that what he did is he holed himself up in his hotel room, which was like right next to Quinn's office. He and the quarterbacks would be in there watching film. So he treated it like any other week. He didn't go out and do things like, oh, I used to go here, whatever. But he treated it like like he should at home. This is a business week. This is what you do. But that's why he is going to be a good quarterback for a long time in this league. The mindset after the interception. So he throws the interception. And on the interception, one thing Terry McLaurin said that in the future, what they're going to read they're going to read that coverage different. And I think it would lead to a different route by McLaurin breaking off the post and adjusting his route. And he said that he and Daniels would get on that same quote unquote same page. But you see that one time, say, okay, next time you see this, let's do this. I'm going to see it this way. And then the one thing with Daniels, he clearly can get on the same page with guys pretty quickly, because we've seen that with Kingsbury and we've seen it with other people as well. And with McLaurin, those two talk all the time. That makes a difference. So the interception, though, on this one, it was just the ball. And even Daniel said he got a little bit greedy. The ball sails on him. It's a pick. It's going to happen. So how do you respond? Well, the defense, again, responds with a 3-and-out. The next drive, what I liked in the drive, they had to punt, but what I liked in the drive is that Daniel stayed aggressive, because he went for another deep shot to McLaurin on a deep crosser, and it was fairly tight coverage, but it was a ball that you could squeeze in. It was the right ball to throw. That's what I like. He didn't back down because he had just thrown a pick. It's like he's going after it again. It wasn't a chance for a pick, but it was almost a good catch by McLaurin. But the point is, he was aggressive with it, and I know that pleases McLaurin to no end. The accuracy is always there. And sometimes it's just little details, folks, or little things. 3rd down and 4, the second drive of the game. So they're backed up in their own, deep in their own end zone. With the 3rd and 4, little whip route, Zaccheaus comes in, then cuts back out, hits it on the left shoulder. Perfect spot. If he doesn't hit it there, Zaccheaus does not pick up the first down. That's accuracy. Like, completion percentage is great, but the accuracy is throwing it to the proper shoulder and giving the guy a chance to run after the catch. And that's what he did on that play. He barely gets the first down, extend the drive, touchdown drive. There you go. So those are little things that make a difference. But that accuracy, there was the 3rd and 2 where there was a blitz and he's just falling, kind of fading back, flick of the wrist to McLaurin on a slant, picks up the first down. That's a talented throw. I mean, the one to McCaffrey, where he's looking, boom, now it comes out. That's arm talent. When you talk about it, and I've talked about this before, but arm talent is, you see it, that ball's coming out, and that's what he did there. So you see all those traits for sure that I think makes him a special talent. And that's 2 weeks in a row now he's done this. It's really, again, I think what he's doing is not surprising, but somewhat incredible, because to do it in your first 4 games says a lot. And I think it goes back to the preparation that he has. It goes back to the mindset he has, when he even said, after the interception, nobody had to come up to him and say like, oh, keep your head up, or anything like that. He knows the deal. It's like, you run out the field, that's it. The one thing, when he was at Arizona State, there were times where, Herm Edwards told me that he'd come off the field, he'd be kind of laughing after interception, because he knew what he did wrong, and he knew he was going to get it back. And that's what he does. That did it. I don't think he was laughing, but I do think he knows, like, hey, one play, NFL, it's on to the next play. And then again, next drive, they punted, but after that, 5 straight scoring drives. That's how they finished the game. And so that's how he responded to the interception. And Nick Allegretti kind of said it was about time he made a mistake, and he said that he wanted to see how he responded. He brought up Patrick Mahomes and how, like, he doesn't like to compare. He doesn't like to talk a lot about as he says, his past team, because he wants to be here, wants to talk about this team, but he was around a great quarterback who knew how to do that. And that was a special talent that Mahomes had, is like, you throw a pick, you're on to the next play. And Daniels does that. And Terry McLaurin was saying that he was not surprised how he bounced back, because this is who he is. This is the mindset that Daniels has. And as long as you have that and you continue to build on things, and you don't get impressed or down, you don't get overly impressed by what you did on Monday night, and you don't get down about an interception, that's how you build on success in this league. And that's what Washington is starting. That's what Daniels is starting to do. And if Washington go home and can go beat the Browns 4-1, like that's not a spot that I think many people would have predicted they would be in, including myself, because that's a really, really good start. And I don't think this is a fluke. Whether or not they, I don't think it's a fluke, folks. So I think like what you're going to see from here on out is this kind of effort. Now, whether or not they win a lot of games or how many games they win, I don't know, but they're going to be a factor for a while, I think, going forward, because I think you look at the NFC East and not many teams are playing well there. This team is feeling really good about itself and they can build on this for sure. So a tremendous road trip for this team, 2-0 and coming back from the desert with a lot of hope for the future here. Again, that's it for tonight, wrapping up the 42-14 win. I'll be back on Tuesday morning with a little bit of a game review, and then also Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern time with Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders. So thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.